time for our new training vlog and to talk about the new training block. So I've been at this one for 2 weeks now, so I'm just starting the third week. And I thought I would talk a little bit about the progressions I've chosen and why I've chosen those progressions. But I also wanted to touch base about increasing my training to 5 days a week. But I've also shortened the actual length of each training session. So in the last block I was just doing 4 days a week, but some of the training sessions were taking sort of 90 minutes or a little bit more to get through by the time I did the warm-up and practice some of the skills. So I decided I want to shorten that and make my sessions a little bit quicker, but in doing so I've also added another day so I just still can get the volume in that I want to get in. I decided I wanted to do 2 bent arm strength days because I really want to push the one arm chin up and also want to push the handstand push up, and just doing those once a week or training that once a week is not going to be enough for me to see the progress fast enough, so just adding another session there. So I might start with that and talk a little bit about the 2 bent arm days. So I'm still working towards the single arm chin up and the handstand push up. In day 1 I'm working a single arm chin up strap assisted. So the last block I was doing a double arm chin up and then coming out to the archer and slowly lowering down, so mainly just working the eccentric of the one arm. But with this one I'm starting to train some of the concentric with the one arm. I have this ability to be able to use the hands as a gauge of how far down I place the assisting hand. So my goal is over the weeks to try and move the hand further and further down. So I'm aiming for 5 sets of 3 repetitions on each arm. And in week 1, I had the hand placement 3 fist widths down, and I managed to do 5 by 3. So in week 2, I decided to increase the distance to 4 fist widths down, and I managed to get 5 by 3 reps. So this week, when I move into that day 1 of bent arm strength, I'm going to place the hand 5 fist widths down and try to get 5 sets of 3. If that's successful, we continue to lower the assisting hand. If I fail to get 5 by 3, then I keep it the same the next week. So I allow my strength to dictate the progression from week to week. You could see it as a way of increasing the intensity. I'm not adding weight like I was in the archer chin up. I'm just starting to increase the range of motion in terms of the arm doing the pulling has to do more work because the assisting hand is lower and lower down. So hopefully by the end of this block I can virtually have the arm straight, the assisting arm straight on the strap at the start and eventually just pull up. So there's a little bit of assistance there, but it's not very much there. Okay, so the handstand push-up on day 1. I've moved from the star shape that I was doing in the last block to having the feet together. This is a harder position, it's harder on the balance, and also now more weight is stacked over the top of the hands, so there's over that center of mass, so it just increases the weight slightly in comparison to the star that I was doing earlier. I'm also doing this on the P-bars, so I'm kicking up onto an elevated surface, which is the P-bars, and I'm lowering all the way down into that shoulder stand. And I find that the P-bars are a little bit harder. There's more work I find in the wrists, just controlling the balance, so it's strengthening the grip in the forearms. But I also find that it's a lot harder on the triceps. When the hands are flat, I feel that I'm probably getting a little bit more shoulder and chest involved. But when I'm on those P-bars, I definitely feel that this isolates more of the tricep muscles. But I'm pretty happy with my progress here. I'm getting sort of 15 seconds eccentric at the moment in the handstand push-up. And as I get to the bottom into that shoulder stand, I'm just playing with sort of opening up and moving into that bent arm planche. Down the path, I might have a goal of trying to do the impossible push-up, but we'll see how this goes. Let's just get the handstand push-up first. Okay, on the second day, which is later in the week of the bent arm strength, I've just added in some weighted pull-ups. So they're just a pronated grip weighted pull-ups. And the main reason is just to continue to work on the pulling strength, but it's also to try and balance out a lot of the supinated grip pulls that I'm doing. So when I'm working the one arm chin, as I pull up, the palm is facing me. So I want to try to work some pull-ups where the palm is facing away. This just helps to balance the bicep just a little bit more. So depending on where we have the grip, which part of the bicep we're sort of using, but also the grip changes a little bit, the ratios between the lats and the biceps and the pulling muscles. So just trying to get some balance there in the pull-ups. And I find that working some weighted pull-ups is a good way to increase the strength or maintain the strength that we have as we start to work towards that one arm chin, because obviously a lot of what we do is body weight stuff as we move closer to some of the progressions in that one arm chin. Okay, so in the second bent arm strength day, I'm working wall facing handstand push-ups. So being on the wall just allows me to take the balance component out and allows me to focus on my form and technique, and also just building some concentric strength in that handstand push-up. So in the previous block and in day one of this block, I'm purely working the eccentric motion of the handstand push-up. So this second day now gives me the ability to do some concentric. I'm using a target, so it is shortening the range of motion just a little bit, but the goal is to start to work through the full range of motion, or to take the target lower and lower as strength and form improves. I'm not a huge fan of shortened range of motion, but as long as you're doing a full range of motion somewhere during the week, I think partial range is okay. I wouldn't just do the partial range handstand push-up without on the previous day, or sorry, on the first day of bent arm strength, doing the full eccentric. I think it's important to be able to work through that full range of motion so you don't cause any pain in the joints, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrist, the upper body that I'm using in that handstand push-up. I'm good at sort of making the mistake of allowing the back to arch, so I'm really trying to focus on keeping that hollow body position in the handstand push-up and being as strict as I can. I know that when I first get the handstand push-up concentric, there's probably going to be a lot of arching there, but I'm just trying to use the best technique I can. So just allowing that elevated surface to be at a good height, and allowing the form and my strength to dictate the height of the elevated surface, not rushing to lower that surface and allow the form to break is my goal on this day. So as the weeks progress, I'll try to take out the blocks and get lower and lower. Okay, so besides the 2 bent arm strength days, I also have 2 other days where I'm working on handstands and mobility training. I need to spend more time on my hands so that I can improve the quality of my handstand. I'm finding that just doing 3 days has significantly improved my kick up to handstand, and it's also improving my overall sort of handstand balance and handstand shape. So I think if you really want to get good at handstands and be into the one arm hand balancing and all these sort of things, I think you need to spend more and more time on your hands, 5-6 days a week, just continuing to work on that balance. But for me, I think right now 3 days is working quite well, and it allows me to get in the bent arm strength days, and it allows me to get in my 5th day, which is a leg day, which I'll talk about. Anyway, on the first day of my handstand mobility, I'm doing handstands and pancake mobility training. I'll talk more about this mobility stuff in a later vlog, but right now I'm just sort of running through the structure of my current block. The handstand on this day is just working into the handstand, being able to move into tuck, so changing shape, and then taking that tuck handstand and coming down into a tuck planche. I find this quite difficult because of my wrist extension ability, but I think that I can do some reps. I have successfully managed to get some reps in, and over the weeks this will just start to get smoother and smoother. This correlates to the press to handstand, so it helps to build strength in some of the similar muscles that we use in the press to handstand. So it sort of goes nicely with my second day of handstand and mobility, which is my press handstand and middle splits at this point. Yeah, still got a lot of work to do on middle splits, so it's got to be in there weekly. And I also find on that day I still need to do some sort of hamstring mobility, because my press to handstand requires that I get better core compression, and I need more posterior chain flexibility to be able to get those thighs closer to the chest there. That's my biggest limitation, and being able to keep the legs straight in that press handstand. At the same time, I've just got to continue to train it so I maintain the strength and just continue to work on the form, and as my mobility improves, it'll definitely start to improve in terms of my pressing. Okay, the 5th and final day is my legs day, and you know how I love a split squat. It's still in this block, but I've moved to having the barbell on my back for the split squat, and the front foot is now elevated, so it's increasing the range of motion there because the foot is elevated. For the first 2 weeks, I've just had 50 kilos on the bar, and my primary focus here is actually more depth and pushing the knee over the toe as far as I can. This helps to increase ankle, knee, hip strength and mobility. And there is a stupid myth that's in the health and fitness industry that we should never take the knee over the toe because this is going to cause knee injury, blah, blah, blah. The fools who believe this myth are the ones that get hurt because they never take their knee over their toe. if you want to build strength, you have to move into that range of motion. Strength is only gained in the range of motion trained. So if you look at a lot of running sports, especially sports where we're changing directions, if you look at someone walking backwards, if you look at any jumping sport, the knee must travel over the toe. So if you don't train it, you're not going to be strong there. And if you go knee over toe without training it, then your chance of injury is high. But if you build strength in the knee over toe position, then when you go there, you have a lot less chance of injuring that knee. So it's important to train knee over toe and build strength in the gym so you don't get hurt when you play your sport, run, walk backwards, whatever it is that's going to give you any chance of injuring that knee. Because I'm doing a lot of stretching, especially the pancake, the middle splits, there's a lot of pressure on the connective tissue around the knee, even in the front splits. So it's important to keep the knee strong and healthy. So the legs day, as I've said before, for me is all about just maintaining strength and making sure I've got the strength to be able to hit the mobility goals that I want. On that day, I'm also doing some split stance RDLs, and this left my hamstrings in pieces after week 1. This is a great little exercise that really helps improve the mobility of the hamstrings. It's also working core compression. It's also targeting the glutes. It's also a unilateral exercise, so you can compare left to right. I think it's a great little exercise in the program and something that everybody can benefit from. I finished this day with some ankle specific sort of work. I'm doing some tibialis anterior raises with the back to wall, which are a real killer at high volume. I'm getting 15 reps at the moment for sort of 3 sets, but the goal is to build that up to around about 25 reps. This exercise works the muscles on the front of the shin, so this helps strengthen those muscles, which is good if you're the sort of person who suffers from shin splints. You want these muscles nice and strong, but these muscles also originate at the knee, so if these muscles are strong, they help to stabilize the knee. So again, it's just working obviously muscles above and below the knee, on the inside and outside of the knee, so I'm trying to get that knee nice and strong. I'm also hitting some donkey calf raises in a feet elevated pike shape, which targets the posterior chain, but it also works this additional sort of core compression idea, which I find is quite interesting. There's a lot to focus on in this exercise, keeping the weight sort of balanced between the hands and the feet, being able to extend the ankles and push into the floor. You can get good height there, but also being able to compress and pull the chest in closer as we do those calf raises. So there's a lot sort of going on in that exercise, but I think it's quite a useful one. Again, working muscles in and around the ankle and muscles that connect to the back of the knee. So it's all about strengthening the knee there. So that's just a little bit of an overview of some of the primary exercises and some of what I'm sort of doing in this sort of block of training. Again, it's a 6-week block. There's a lot more to talk about. I've got to get into some of the mobility I've sort of been doing. After the last block, I had some sort of shoulder pain, anterior shoulder pain on the left. I feel that was because of all the pressing work. So the handstand pressing and the weighted push-ups just sort of overloaded that anterior delt. So I've got some mobility in this block that's really working on sort of stretching that, and some other exercises that are really working on strengthening sort of the upper mid-back, to improve just the shoulder stability and to alleviate that pain. So in a couple of weeks of doing these exercises, I already feel a lot better. But I think it's a common thing we see people suffering with in terms of overdoing pressing, not enough pulling and not enough stretching work. So I'll talk about some of the mobility stuff in the next vlog, hopefully in about a week's time. Hope you found this interesting. Feel free to comment or add questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.